Let me. Okay. So before we start, I actually wanted to ask you which prompts of the interview questions that you would like to focus on because I sent you quite a lot.
Yeah, many questions were really, really nice, but yeah, some of them were quite difficult. But yeah, we can trade all the questions.
Oh, really?
I mean, I can just maybe answer quite shortly, but maybe we could focus on the essential things, I think.
Sure, sure. That sounds great. Okay. So, um, yeah, then I'll start with the first question. Hold on. Which is, um, well, how do you think the state of the current contemporary classical music industry is?
I think it's quite changing fast because, I mean, this whole generation and this era is quite changing fast. Many young people, including myself and maybe you, like are very, very used to this kind of very high technologies and uh, accepting every, informations. And I think the music, contemporary music especially, follows these kind of trends, especially. And I think they try to accept a lot and maybe depict a lot through their music, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges that contemporary composers face today?
I think um, we always have to think about the audiences because otherwise, if we don't have audiences, otherwise it's it's meaningless to write music. But the music, many young composers, like including myself, are aware of that. The music we write, sometimes um, it is quite hard for them to understand. And we are always thinking about how to face this kind of problem and how to make them think our music is quite listenable.
Right. Absolutely. So going off that response, what are some ways that you found that really works to generalize this genre of music to the general public? Because I personally, that's honestly one of the main goals of this research project is to understand how why first of all contemporary music is not as heavily generalized, and second
Mhm.
of all how it can that can be ameliorated. And um yeah, so what do you think?
Yeah, I think there are many ways to, let them understand our music more easily.
Mhm.
First of all, I yeah, it's my story, but it's like myself. I'm using quite a lot of tonal music in my own piece, which is kind of very challenging sometimes.
Mhm.
But yeah, I experienced that it helps a lot for them to understand my music and understand my thoughts and philosophies towards my art and yeah, maybe a lot of things. And current piece I just performed in Birmingham, UK,
Mhm.
was a piano trio piece. But it should be a very sad piece. But I was thinking about writing an atonal piece, but I realized that no, they they will feel not sad, but they will be terrified with this music. So
Oh.
I so I um ended up writing a tonal music like G minor. It's basically this G, written in G minor, but adding some kind of contemporary techniques. But many audiences were quite impressed if they are saying truth.
Right.
This
um
kind of
and
challenges now.
do you feel like because of this need for you to write tonal music, that there's a limitation to what you're doing with your work, how experimental you can be, and how you express yourself?
No, it's kind of, it is just one way to just approach to them more
Mhm.
friendly. And I believe there could be a many other ways to, you know, to bridge the gap between this kind of thing. Um, like I can give you some examples, like existing examples by other composers. One of them is a German-born British composer called Max Richter,
Mm.
and he composed a music called it's very direct title, Recomposed by Max Richter, Vivaldi the Four Seasons is the title of the piece, and it's literally the recomposition of the Four Seasons by Vivaldi. And he used the material, the original music as the main material of the music, but it became very minimalistic and quite new piece. And the another one is the folk songs by Italian composer Luciano Berio, quite old one, but he used a lot of folk songs in many countries, like including US or Italy, France. But he used this kind of, very existing melodies in his contemporary music. So I think this kind of things can be a good way to manage this kind of problem, I think.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think that's really interesting. And that composers are experimenting more with older like tunes and recreating them to the modern a year, right?
Yeah.
Um and so are there any platforms or like ways to access these compositions currently? Because obviously, even I am obviously interested in contemporary music, but I hadn't heard of these pieces, and I would like to know how this could be like better, like like how this
Hmm.
people like me could access these compositions when we're not so knowledgeable about them.
I think um, we're gonna treat this afterwards, but digital platforms can be a good things. And also I'm not sure about the markets in US because I didn't live there in a long time. I did there, but I have an experience of some European countries have the festivals only focusing on this
Oh,
kind of contemporary music, such as in Austria there is a festival called Wien, which is like Vienna Modern in English, of course.
okay.
Which is happening right now. It's like they spend whole November like just doing this kind of contemporary music festival, and they are like performing a lot of contemporary pieces that are famous, but also they're premiering a lot of pieces. So I think this kind of platforms can be a good chances for audiences to reach towards the contemporary music, I think. So I think, yeah, in European countries there are a lot.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
less in Korea.
yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe you can start that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's interesting that, there are these festivals that are solely for contemporary classical music. Um, Now I know these are in person, right? So maybe people in the US can't exactly access those. So that's why I think like I am building a platform for that, and I think that that could be really essential in promoting all of
Yeah.
these new works that are new things that are happening in New York. I mean, Europe. Sorry.
You're No, it's
Yes.
right.
Right. And that also kind of answered my question on accessibility. So I think we can go on to talking about education.
Yeah.
So what role do you think education plays in fostering an appreciation for contemporary classical music? So, and are there ways to incorporate those modern compositions into the music education curriculum?
Yeah, I think there are always a way to add this kind of things into a general education in a curricula. Um, I mean, um, contemporary music needs require it's quite ironical when you think about the music itself, but contemporary music, in general, they need some kind of, education before they really enjoy and understand the music. But I think, the adding this kind of, knowledge to the curriculum, the general curriculum in maybe most of the country. Sorry. So it was quite
Yes, yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's terrible internet here. So
Okay.
so where shall I start again?
Maybe honestly, just like the entire answer.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was like yeah.
absolutely. I know.
Yeah, this internet every yeah. I mean
Okay, we'll cut that
every
part
day.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. Um and yeah, let me just think about my answer again. And yeah, adding curricula to this about country music is quite important and can be done by authorities and governments.
Mhm.
But we first have to let them understand why and how important it is that the contemporary music is, which is very hard one.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's quite ideal thing. But I think it's very important. I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know of any successful projects or courses that have really helped generalize and kickstart this revolution of contemporary classical music?
Yeah, I think it's also started in Europe, but when I participated in Geneva competition last year, I was surprised that many young students actually come to the competition and listen to the music, which is really, really new for them. And actually, we had a kind of student prize that student actually gives the prize actually. So they have to listen to the music first and decide what works for them. So I think this kind of thing could be a good point of education, I think. And the festival I ever mentioned, the Modern Festival, it had it is not generous thing, but it like 6 years ago, it had a kind of a meeting with contemporary composers with a very young student, and I was the composer there. And I met a very young Austrian students and talked about a contemporary music in general.
Mhm.
So this kind of the natural thing, not in schools, but outside of schools, they can make lots of chances for the young people. I think younger generations.
Right. That is, I think, very, very important as well. Um, Now, because these are in person again, um, I feel like, not everyone in the world can go there and, learn from these competitions and these,
Yeah,
yeah, festivals, right? So, for example, as in the perspective of someone who's been in the industry for so long, if there was a platform um that that could generalize these and publicize these works, and also provide an education, in what form do you think it should be on? For example, if it was a part on a website, this is all for inspiration. So it'd
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
helpful. But if, for example, if it was like a part of a website, um, what would you suggest would be the best way to educate a young audience or maybe an older audience on contemporary music in general?
It's quite a very difficult question to
Mo-
answer. Yeah,
Answer it if you don't want to. We can just like cut it out.
yeah. But
This is
maybe
simply for my education.
yeah, it's like many. I mean, using websites is like very useful, but um, that can be random, so it could be quite also dangerous in some ways, I think.
Mm.
So, like, I am also using a lot of the digital forms and enjoying that, but also think that it has a kind of dangerous parts.
Mm.
Like they can be misled by themselves, like
I-
searching the wrong information or like
mm.
very, biased information. It's so it can be it's very difficult to say. So
Yep.
yeah.
No, I understand it. It can be a tool for education, but also for information. So, yeah, that's a good answer. I will take that. Okay, then speaking of websites and digital platforms, how do you think the rise of streaming services or digital platforms have impacted the distribution and consumption of contemporary classical music?
The good thing is that many people can enjoy the music like whenever and wherever they want, and it is very, good thing for the audiences, I think. And yeah, before this kind of development of the digital thing, we had to buy every single ticket to go to the concert, and yeah, we might not be able to go to some really good ones, like in my case, I'm living in Europe, in London. I cannot go to US to listen to Boston Philharmonic or something like that. And people in US cannot come to, it's very hard to come to the European continent and listen to Berlin Philharmonic. So it's, yeah, nowadays it's not, it's no problem. It's like we just search on the Google or YouTube or even somewhere else. And we can easily listen to the music, but the bad thing is that um like people rely too much on this kind of thing and don't care about it's my opinion, but they tend to not care that much about the real concert and the real the sounds or something like that. It's very crucial for the performers and conductors, but not for the audiences, I think.
Mhm.
So there are like pros and cons for this, I think.
Absolutely. And now this can be generalized to classical music in general, right? Like not just contemporary classical music.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a unique aspect to contemporary music that has been like changed a little bit, whether it's been that people have had more access to it, what or like yeah, your thoughts in general.
Yeah, it's I mean contemporary music can be divided from, you know, the classical music, but actually it is not divided. It is very linked to the
Mhm.
classical music because it is literally the descendant of classical music. So I think it applies to contemporary music as well, but I think there are more merits than other, the other really classical ones because um they don't go often to just they don't often buy tickets to listen to only to the contemporary music, but they also can listen to this kind of thing through YouTube or this kind of digital platform, just not actually going to the place, but in their room or wherever they want. So there must be a bit more merit, I think, to for the contemporary music, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. Like I was thinking a few days ago, if I hadn't been as exposed to contemporary music as I was, playing different contemporary composers works, I maybe wouldn't have bought a ticket to contemporary music concert. But then now that I was exposed to it, you develop a real interest and love for it. So, it's all about exposure, I think. And I think personally, the not digital platforms specifically, but just maybe YouTube or anything has just helped with that exposure and publicization of
That's right. Yeah.
right. So now next question. Um so support systems. So what kind of support systems, whether it's institutional or promotional or financial, do you as a composer think need to thrive in the classical music industry?
I think there are many like um, I, education things going on in this world whole world. I think there are many, in most of the music universities, there are like composition departments, and most of the composition departments treat the contemporary music mainly. So, like, there are like tons of like million, almost millions of education things. But I think promotional thing and financial thing are the things that we really need, I think, or maybe the promotional thing. I could speak it as the really crucial one because I mean, financial. Without money, we cannot. Obviously, it is obvious that we cannot write or we cannot thrive as a not only as a musician but as a person. We need money. But yeah. But before that, promo the promotion and promoting ourselves as a musician is very important. Yeah, to just thrive as a musician.
Mhm. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, one other thing I think is about is that like students or just like the general public and yeah, the promotional thing is like we don't get exposed. We don't see that many, we don't see an ad for contemporary music like we would see for a pop song, right? So
Hmm.
I think more of that needs to happen for sure, because then that would bring so much more interest and people would take a listen to that, and maybe people will like it, maybe people will not, but there will be more people who will take an interest and who will listen to it. So yes, I think that is very important. Um, Now moving on. So I wrote that. Oh, okay. Are there changes in funding models, grants, or sponsorships that could further encourage the creation and performance of contemporary classical music?
Well, I'm not sure about this because I it's quite different from the composers and who actually like grant these opportunities. Like making opportunities ourselves sometimes happens, but it is not the major thing, I think. So I think I cannot give you the really sp specific or satisfied answer for this, I think. Sorry.
Right. Absolutely. No, I totally understand. Yeah. Um, well, I mean, one example could be like, I think competitions, maybe, even though that's
Yeah.
not exactly like a sponsorship. But I was thinking, like, you did the Geneva International Music Competition, which is really, really huge. And I think more examples like that could happen, and that would just be a really great thing in the industry.
Yeah, but competition, I mean, it's growing. I mean, the competition market is growing, but like if we focus on the competition, it's decreasing. So there are many composition competitions like back in the days, like maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Like for example, Queen Elizabeth's competition in Belgium,
All
they
right.
had also a composition competition like
Oh, wow.
10 years ago, but
Wow.
they stopped it.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
This kind of happens to composition things. So I was also thinking about this kind of competition, but I couldn't say it with confidence because of this kind of reason.
Yeah. Why do you think that there's a declining market in these competitions in the contemporary classical scene?
I think the audience is most of the audiences spend a hard time understanding our music, and it links to the marketing. And when the people who produces these kind of things see that many audiences are not interested to this kind of contemporary music, then it is obvious that they just cancel this kind of thing or decrease the amount of money they give to this kind of thing. So I think it is quite, you know, it's it's not natural, but it's very in a bad way, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like the audience, it's just getting more and more limited, and yeah, that's why that I think there's like a similar like answer in all of these responses, which is like there needs to be more promotion and more like exposure.
That's right.
I will take that into account when I'm doing my research. Well, now let's look at cultural diversity and inclusivity.
Yeah.
So, first of all, how do you think the classical music industry can embrace and promote cultural diversity and inclusivity, both in terms of composers and the themes explored in contemporary composition? In other ways, it's just like, how do you think the classical music industry can be more accepting of the different experimentations that contemporary classical composers tend to do?
Hmm. That's another very difficult question.
I don't
But
know. One you may wonder yourself.
yeah, but actually, they're actually already are trying a lot to accept a lot of things like accepting our music, our very difficult music, but also other things like the minorities in like in general. So it's I so as I said, we in the very first part of this interview, it is fast changing really fast, and yeah, I think there are like many in our generations, people are accepting a lot of diverse things. I think this music market, like in these days, I think they follow this kind of concept as well.
Mhm.
So we are part of that. So
Yes, absolutely. And um, oh no, I forgot my question. I was gonna do a follow-up question. Hold on. Oh, I completely blanked. Hold on.
it's fine.
Oh, I was gonna ask you, do you think there's like specific efforts to amplify these like underrepresented like themes or experimentations or stories within contemporary classical music that have been happening in around the world? And obviously you said there are like the festivals, there are the concerts that have been happening, but do you know of any like specific like programs that you think are really great that our audience could look into if they wanted to learn more about classical music, classical contemporary music?
Hmm. Yeah, I think there are many programs that can be very interesting to some other people. Like we can start from the programs that focus on mainly on the women composers.
Right, right.
Yeah, many people in these days like focus on the women composers because they are not that highlighted before, but they their music is actually they're really great. And so I mean, many I saw many instrument players and producers program this women composers piece only, but they yeah, it's obvious, but they like program quite old ones like Clara Schumann or like this kind of thing. But also there can be the programs that contains the contemporary women composers. There are lots of contemporary women composers, so it can be a possible way. And
Mhm.
I think there must be one thing in the whole contemporary music thing. Well, that can be a one great example, and there are lots of things that we can just focus on and make it very interesting, I think.
Right. And obviously when people might look into the research I'm doing or whether I'm building a digital platform, there are pieces, I mean, there are people, most of the people actually might not come in not really knowing what they are going to learn about. Right. So when people approach contemporary classical music, what do you suggest that they do first and foremost?
I think it depends on the piece. I think many composers are right, just focusing on the things like it is it's quite really diverse because in my case, I want them to imagine something. My title can give them quite a good help, but it
Absolutely.
is not a you know the most important thing they should listen. But I prioritize their own imagination, even though I give a specific title. But some composers like they just put title and they just use their own philosophy and want audiences to understand them. So it can be really diverse, I think. So yeah, in general, they have to promote themselves in a good way for
Mhm.
them. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I remember when I was working on Holo, it was a very good it was a very honestly very much not easier but more friendly way to approach the piece because I looked at the title and I had a um quite an understanding of what I could be working on, right? I could infer something from that title, which I think is very, very helpful for new students of contemporary classical music.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, I wanted to ask you this for a while actually. What got you into contemporary classical music?
Sorry.
What got you into contemporary music?
Uh,
And how was
well,
your
I was interested in music when I was how old was I? Maybe 17 or 16. Um, I started to study composition when I was like second year high school student, and from the point, my composition teacher back then like introduced me on lots of contemporary music, including like doing the Penderecki or
Mm,
like Ligeti, this kind of the quite old contemporary music composers.
yes.
But this kind of music somehow were really interesting for me because it sounds really different from the traditional ones, and it somehow reminded me of these kind of movies or films. And it
Yes.
was really funny and interested. So I think that was the point that I was interested in the contemporary music.
Mm. And when it made you think of movies and films, did you think when I start composing, maybe I can write a little for movies and films? Like, what was your thought process when you got started in the industry?
Yeah, the very first part of my composition life, I wanted to become a actually a film composer, a composer
Oh,
of films. But actually, yeah, I still have a mind to write for music for a film as well,
yes.
but not that desperate. But yeah, it was a good starting point for me, I think, and it helped me a lot to just understand the music, this kind of
Right.
music, I think.
Now, this is very interesting because now I see like a connection between film music and contemporary music, contemporary classical music, right? So well, do you think there's like a, I mean, not, I don't, do you think there's a difference between film music and contemporary classical music?
That's a really good question. But actually many film scores like they use lot like and lot of contemporary music and lots of the great examples of film music which uses this kind of contemporary techniques and like philosophies or something like that. So I think it connects really well, but I cannot say that they are the same ones.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how both are quite contemporary. However, film music is, if you think about it, more publicized in a way because of the films that they are connected to, right?
Mm,
And film and movies, Hollywood, all that sometimes tend to get mass attraction from the public, right? Compared to like this quite kind of smaller classical music industry. Now now this is something I would be definitely interested in targeting. And yeah, thanks for giving me a new outlook into this project. Um,
thank you.
yeah, so I think I'm gonna wrap this up with one last question, which is future outlook. So from your perspective, what do you think the future of contemporary classical music would be within the classical music industry and also in the general world, like the in society, what do you think it could become?
Hmm. It is very always is very kind of difficult and maybe dangerous to speak about the future. But I think when we see the things that we composers and performers are doing right now with the contemporary music, I think we are building quite a healthy relationship right now. So I think there will be better things going on in the future, like many concerts or many festivals or something like that. So it's quite difficult to say in the future, but I hope that will happen.
Yes. Okay. Well, this has been such an invigorating conversation, and I want to thank you so much for it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. This honestly, like, I learned a lot of new things, and I'm excited to present them in my research and also like future endeavors. So, thank you so much. And I hope I can keep in contact with you about how this
Yeah,
process
of course.
goes. Yeah.
And I hope your research goes well.
Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, thank you for
Okay.
making time for me. And good night in London. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.